The Brothers Mysterium. Bonus content.
Welcome to Episode 2 of bonus content from The Brothers Mysterium. These episodes are released from time to time, and they include things that didn't fit in the show, or they were a little too abstract to form an entire episode around, or maybe it was just some random conversations that Tommy and I were having and decided they were a little worthwhile. Now, for this current episode, we actually have added content, which relates back to an episode we did in Season 1. Episode 10, it was called Dream Visitations. Now, if you're new to the show, or you're not familiar with the concept, or maybe you just need a refresher, I recommend you go back and listen to Episode 10 in its entirety. But just to make things a little easier, we're going to throw it back to a quick clip where Tommy gives us our first introduction to Dream Visitations.
We are the Brothers Mysterium, and today we are discussing Dream Visitations.
Indeed we are.
And what that is a visit in a dream from someone who is no longer with us, a deceased friend or relative who comes to you in a dream. And it's important to point out here, it's not like your grandma doesn't just appear in your dream and she's like a side character, or you see her and you're going shopping. She usually makes direct contact with you, clear communication with either words or telepathy, and there's a message involved. And it's also, the dream is very, very real, very vivid. It's not like your usual dream. Usually people have a really easy time remembering these dreams. They really stick with them. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, what the hell was I dreaming about? I can't remember. And they're said to have this kind of hyper real intensity that goes along with them. People say it like doesn't even feel like a dream. And the message that comes across, sometimes it's an apology. It could be reassurance, like I'm fine now, I'm doing okay. Kind of a message of healing, or occasionally even like a warning about something that might happen. And when these people wake up from a dream visitation, they have a feeling of peace, love, light, gratitude. And a lot of times they say it really helped them with like the grieving process. They have resolution. So you wake up and it's not like, oh, I'm sad, I just dreamed about grandma. It's like you wake up and you feel great and you feel like, wow, grandma's doing okay. What an amazing dream. That was great. And you have closure.
So it leaves you with the real life feeling of an actual visit, pretty much.
Yes, it's a nice, pleasant visit. Yeah, it's not a nightmare. You're not scared that...
No terror, huh?
No terror.
All right. So as luck would have it, this is actually one of the subjects on the show that I'm familiar with and have had a firsthand experience with. So naturally, I was very excited to share my dream visitation story.
Let's call her Aunt F.
Okay, Aunt F. Well, actually, we're going to go with Aunt W on this one. Who Aunt W is Aunt F's sister. Aunt F is still alive, by the way. Aunt W passed away. And this is the same house. These are our neighbors. We've gone to their house. We've done pretty much every supernatural experiment as children was performed in this house. The story Tom told about the wind, that house. The story I told about the EVPs, that house. There's more to come. But pretty much I've had dreams where Aunt W shows up in my dreams, and it's not, and I always say like to her kind of, which is kind of probably rude to say, I don't know, but it's like, you're dead. You kind of shouldn't be here. You're dead. This is out of place. To which she kind of like reassures me, like, she's like, no, it's cool. Like, don't worry about it. Now, when we first recorded this episode, Tommy hadn't had any experiences with dream visitation, at least not any that he could definitively say was 100% a dream visitation experience. But since then, Tommy actually had an experience. And oddly enough, it featured the same person from my dream visitation story. And that brings us to the point of this bonus episode. So, without any further delay, here's Tommy's dream visitation story.
The Brothers
Mysterium.
So several months ago, we had recorded what became our Dream Visitations episode. And at the time, I had no dream visitations, but Since then, I've actually had one. And it was very interesting to me. And I guess I'll tell the dream first and then we can kind of discuss it. But as we've mentioned many times, we were very close with our almost surrogate grandmothers, Aunt W and Aunt F, who lived next door to us growing up. And Aunt W was awesome. She would always take us out, buy us toys, take us to Wendy's. And I love Wendy's, man. I f***ing love Wendy's. And my dream is that one day this show will blow up so much that it can become a TV show and we can get a Wendy's sponsorship. But I digress. So Aunt Debbie was really cool with us, always kind of spoiled us. So several months after we recorded this episode, we put it to bed. We've moved on to other things. I fall asleep on the couch and I have this dream, and I will now explain to you the dream. So I'm in her car, and it's the car that she actually owned. It's like a tan Pontiac Bonneville. We're driving, just cruising along. I'm in shotgun, she's driving. And, we're just kind of talking about, I don't even remember really, just kind of shooting, I don't want to say shooting the shit. We're just kind of chatting.
I think Caitlin would be cool with that.
Probably. So we're just chatting, driving along, and all of a sudden something like doesn't feel right to me. And I can't quite put my finger on it. And I'm still kind of talking to her, but now I'm half paying attention and I'm just trying to figure out like, what's not right about this? And I'm like, it's something because we're driving. I'm like, we shouldn't be driving. Something's weird about this. And I'm like, oh, I know this is weird because Aunt F doesn't drive. She just never had her license.
Wait, Aunt F was driving?
No, Aunt
Okay.
W. This is my logic.
Okay.
So I'm like, this is weird because Aunt F, doesn't drive. So why are we driving? It doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden it hits me. It's because I'm with Aunt W.
Right.
And she's dead.
Right.
So I realized this and I'm like, holy crap, I'm with her and she's dead. And I don't know if I knew it was a dream or not, but I sort of knew like I have to do something. Like I'm in this opportunity right now to like speak to her or something.
Right.
So she's kind of still talking about whatever. And I like just turn to her and I'm like, how are you? And she's like, oh, I'm okay. And I'm like, no. How are you? And then she like locks eyes with me and I get this really weird feeling. Now like the background and everything else just like kind of disappears. We're no longer driving through the suburbs. It's like basically just like us in this car and like the whole mood has changed and it's almost like I kind of busted her.
Right.
And it kind of felt like I ruined the dream. It was like we were like, it's like we were in a play or something and I like peeked behind the curtain and it was like, boom, it's over.
You broke the fourth wall.
Right. The fun was gone. And then like she was like looking right at me. It was like kind of crazy connection there where she knew, like I knew that she knew.
But she thought you didn't know.
Right. Like she was like, oh crap, he knows I'm dead. So again, I'm like, how are you? So she's like, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. Doing great. So I was like, oh, I miss you a lot. She's like, I miss you too. I'm glad everything's going good, whatever. And I'm like trying to think of other great stuff to say to her when she just gets out of the car, shuts the door. And as soon as the door's shut, my eyes snap awake. And I was like, holy crap. Then, and now an interesting thing to note, because from doing all that research months ago, it's like when people have these dreams, usually they said like, they wake up and they get this nice feeling of like peace and like, oh, I just got to see a loved one. They're in a better place. And it's like really nice and calm. I felt more like shook up.
Right. Like this is the first time you've seen her in a long time and you blew it. Like you got off with the wrong foot kind of.
Not even, just that it was weird and it was unsettling and like,
right.
Basically it was like I ghost busted her.
Yeah.
I busted her. And like, I realized that it was whatever it was. And I was like, what are you doing? We had this moment where she was like, we both knew she was dead and we were still talking.
Right.
And then she basically just kind of bailed. So that's my dream.
Which is interesting because like, now this could be related to the fact that I shared with you the dreams I have with Aunt W where she shows up and it's the same thing where I realize and I say, wait a second, you're dead. And I don't know if, going supernatural side, did she say, all right, I'll give Tom a visit too? Or was it that you heard my dream and that planted the subconscious seed in your mind? And
well, that's what's so interesting. I was proud of myself for taking advantage of the moment.
Right.
And not just going along with it. But when I woke up, then I was sort of stuck with this conundrum of, was this a real, legit dream visitation?
Because, no matter what, the emotions are real.
Right. It felt, I mean, it felt very real once I had realized what was going on, and we were like having like a real conversation where she's like, I'm doing fine, I'm whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely had that hyper realism, which was discussed. But it's like, then I kind of was questioning, like, was this a legit thing? Did she come and visit me? Or is this the product of having researched dream visitation months earlier and listened to all these people's dream stories? So
Right.
that's sort of what I was grappling with. And I'm like a very definitive person. I feel like that's like, on one hand, I should have been super stoked that it happened. It's basically the first paranormal experience I've had since we started the show and started recording.
Right.
So I'm like half excited about it. I'm like, that's pretty badass. We did an episode about this and then it happened to me. And that's incredible because you can't we're not going to fake it or, we can't force something to happen.
Definitely not.
And like the best experience, we listen to other people's stories because we don't always have our own. So it's cool that I went through it. But I was hoping, like I said, I want to be very definitive. If I see a ghost, I want to be like, I saw a ghost. I now know they're real. That's the way it went down. Like people we talk to will say that.
Right.
But I had this experience, but a part of me is still like, was this just a dream? Was this just subconsciously I was thinking about her, or I had done all this research about dream visits and listened to these stories and it was just a dream that seemed kind of real? Part of me wishes I could more so fully say 100% she visited me. That was her spirit. It's real. And I can't, which just sort of leaves me at this weird crossroads. Part of me is like, this is what we wanted when we started the show. We wanted to experience stuff and I did, but it was in a dream, which always leaves the open door of, well, a dream could just be a dream.
Absolutely. Yeah. There needs to be some kind of physical manifestation or carryover for, I guess, what you could consider proof if it did happen.
Right.
The interesting thing is, though, the difference between my dream and your dream is that when I tell her or I point out that she's dead in my dreams, she always just shrugs it off and she's like, yeah, that's all right. Let's just carry on.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever... See, some reason, I feel like that's the difference, though.
But I've never probed into it, how is it to be dead?
Right.
That kind of stuff.
But
I've
I
always just
wonder-
kind of said
Okay,
and we carried on with the play, so to speak.
To me, that's almost like, right, is that her visiting you? Or that sounds like it might even be just more of a dream where she just pops up because every now and then you think of her, we talk about her a lot.
It's consistent, though.
And there are other people that have stories like that as well. And now here's another super weird thing. So 2 or 3 months after I had my dream, I'm listening to a podcast which featured Amy Bruni. She was from the show Ghost Hunters, and she basically is being interviewed about her experiences on the show and with the paranormal. And she said, I once had a dream with my grandfather, and we're driving in his car and we're listening to ABBA, and everything's normal. And then all of a sudden I realize that he's dead, and we have this moment. And it was eerily similar to the dream I had as far as being together, being in a car, regular stuff. Then all of a sudden she kind of busts him and the mood changes and everything like that.
Interesting.
And it's weird. And it's it didn't get released until a month and a half, 2 months after I had my own dream. So there's no way I didn't listen to it anyway, but it's not even maybe someone else was listening to it and I snuck into the back of my mind.
You'll probably have another one, is what I would guess. Because like I said, I've had them pretty consistently. But
I hope so. That would be kind of awesome.
Then again, we don't know.
Can't really control your dreams.
We need to compare them.
Or your visits.
Yeah.
So, but it was interesting. And I mean, it's cool that it happened regardless. It's a cool experience. I wish I could be more concrete about it and just say I know that was her visiting me. And I think it was, but I still have that doubt. And maybe that's par for the course with the paranormal, is that it's not ever going to be that concrete. Maybe even if we did go somewhere and saw a ghost, we'd say, wait, did we really see that? It wasn't as clear as I'd hoped. And I guess that's why this is such an open-ended, debated field.
Right.
Is because even though I want it to be very concrete and I want to be able to say I saw that happen and I know that was a spirit, or I know it was this, maybe that'll never be the case.
The brothers. Mysterium.
Thanks for checking this bonus episode out. And again, I highly recommend you go back and listen to episode 10 fully through. There's a lot of great dream visitation stories in there. Tommy and I give more of our analysis, and you're really going to get a lot out of that, even if you've already heard it. All right. Catch you next time.